we again have to turn, I think, to the question of how we can effectively resist, because I think that's the central question. I think the methods of resistance that have become ingrained in us have to be challenged, and I want to frankly bring the perspective that we have in that regard. This last week, as the attacks came down on through the attempt to privatise the garbage system, there wasn't really a very powerful response organised to it. In fact, I have to say very frankly that I don't think sitting in the public gallery at the City Council watching them do it is actually a very effective tactic, in my honest opinion. But at the same time, the truth is that the mobilisation around the issue of banning shark's fin soup actually had more people in the gallery than the issue of privatising the garbage system, and I think that's rather sad. I don't think that the strategy that has been adopted in terms of challenging the forward agenda, that is based on a lobbying strategy, is going to be adequate. I don't think it's going to meet the needs of the situation. The notion that we're going to put together a kind of a public relations exercise and members of the public are going to phone their city councillors and the city councillors are going to defeat Rob Ford is a really realistic strategy. It certainly didn't work with regards to garbage privatisation, and I don't think it's going to work because the austerity agenda is not simply the product of Rob Ford's disordered mind. It is actually coming down internationally. It's a prevailing agenda. And the theory that there's this group of councillors called the mushy middle who are going to be swayed, by poignant appeals is, I think, delusional. We would have to set in motion a movement of resistance in the City of Toronto to Rob Ford that would be sufficient, that would be strong enough that his agenda became a liability. And it is possible to defeat austerity. There are models of it, but it's not going to be done politely. Similarly, on the question of raising the rates, I think it's time to raising social assistance rates in the province of Ontario. I think it's time to revisit the notion that we can educate the government on these questions and therefore win the changes. I think it's necessary to recognise that we have to actually mobilise a movement to challenge them. The Raise the Rates campaign that we're taking up, we've put great emphasis on trying to reach out to the labour movement on it, because we want to make the point forcefully that resisting the drive to push people deeper and deeper into poverty is in the vital interest of all working people. That's a really fundamental and important point. In recent years, the drive to push down social assistance rates has been an incredibly important component of forcing more and more people into the lowest paying jobs on offer, creating a situation where 1 worker in 6 in the province of Ontario is working at or close to the minimum wage. It's a vital strategic objective of the austerity agenda to push down the rates. And governments like that of McGuinty are not ignorant of the situation. The stuff that Roland Wong said on there about the rates of diabetes and other illnesses amongst low-income people is not something that would surprise the Ontario Cabinet. They know that. They've been educated on that sufficiently. But the point is that they don't see at this point any reason to grant any concessions on that front, because there doesn't exist a movement that's strong enough to make them do it. I think that's really the fundamental point about challenging the austerity agenda, is that we have to look for forms of resistance that are strong enough, create enough disruption, enough economic pain to those who are doing this to us, that we can actually talk in terms of mounting effective resistance. If you look at the days of action as a model, for example, that was a situation where people actually mobilised in communities and used the strike tactic along with community mobilisation in ways that were incredibly powerful. I will always look back on the days of action. I look at the one in Toronto. I walk down into the middle of Toronto in the midst of it, and I look around me and I realise that if it wasn't for people striking and people demonstrating, Toronto was a ghost town. Other than the demonstration, other than that mobilisation, Toronto had been shut down. The transportation system had been shut down. The whole thing had been shut down. There was an indication of the actual power that existed. And yet, on that day, something else happened. De facto, a decision was made to take it no further. Right? That's honestly the truth, I believe. It wasn't taken through to a level that was conclusive, that was powerful enough. But it's there. We have that power. We can do things like that. We can organise in that way. We can respond to the austerity agenda with that kind of a mobilisation. And I'm not suggesting that this is something you can just ordain, something you can just call tomorrow. I'm not suggesting that you don't have to do a massive job of organising and educating people and building trust in memberships and building trust in communities. That's absolutely true. But the attacks that are coming down on people are going to produce incredible anger, incredible rage, incredible suffering. And we can build something that's strong enough to respond to it adequately. In the introduction to me, there was a reference made to a grocery store action. And when I put it forward, at one level it seems a petty example, and I suppose it really is a petty example in a sense, but in another sense it points to something. Because we're talking about the poor. We're talking about people who, you know, can't take their investment somewhere else to get the government's attention and can't even withdraw their labour to get the government's attention. But we organised this action in response to the cut to the special diet. And what we did is we took a few dozen of our members and supporters and we went into a Loblaw store, an upscale one, naturally. We didn't want to be dealing with a home crowd. So we went to this Loblaw store and we filled up our grocery carts with $250 approximately worth of groceries, the value of the money that's being lost from the special diet. And many of the people there were losing their special diet. And then we went to the checkouts and we rang the money through, and then when the time came to pay, with all due apologies to the workers and an explanation that we didn't intend to cause them any personal grief, we took out these Dalton McGuinty $250 discount cards. And we said that, we said it's, we've actually got a video of it, but we actually said that what we are asking your store to do is to recognise this currency. We know you can't actually take it to the bank, but what you could do is you could give these people their groceries and then you could send the bill to Dalton McGuinty. Explain, you know. So Loblaws was, well, I mean, they're a good corporate citizen, but they weren't that good that day. They didn't agree to it. And but what did happen was that a bunch of people facing this incredible attack were inspired and felt they'd struck a blow back. It meant that hundreds and hundreds of people in the store got to hear what it was all about, and that was good. But I put it forward, not from that point of view, I put it forward actually as a model of something. On the level that OCAP in Toronto can organise it, it remains, I have to acknowledge, a gesture. But that kind of form of resistance doesn't have to just simply be a gesture. Can you imagine if we responded to the cut to the special diet across this province by organising those kinds of actions? Like organised a wave of those kinds of actions all across the province. People going into grocery stores, fast food restaurants, and doing this kind of an action. It would actually have an impact, an economic impact that would be comparable to a strike, to a major strike. It would actually create very, very powerful conditions. And so what I'm suggesting is that we can think boldly, we can think imaginatively of ways to fight back. But if we take that route, of course there are going to be problems. There's going to be confrontations. I don't think by and large the editorial board of the Toronto Star is going to say favourable things about it. There are going to be real problems. But at the same time, we can begin to actually develop some power as working people beyond that which we already have. We can actually extend our power. We can actually begin to challenge the austerity agenda. And that, I think, is the way that we've got to start to think. We have to understand that if we go on following the rules of an arrangement that was made at a time when there was relative compromise within the system, we're going to get devastated. We're going to be really massively defeated. And when those postal workers marched to Bay Street, I mean, they didn't pick their target at random. They understood very much that they were going right to the heart of the beast. And so I think in the period that's ahead, as we build this movement of austerity, I was introduced as an anti-capitalist activist, and I don't shun the title. I think that we challenge, as we challenge the implementation of their austerity agenda, the logic of it is to actually challenge their system. Pointed out today down at Occupy Toronto that some recent research done by Jim Stanford from the CAW points to the fact that currently in Canada there are 61 billionaires who have more wealth than 17 million people in this country. I don't think that's a logical or a fair or a reasonable way to run a society. For that incredible price tag, we're certainly not getting a very well-run society. We're getting poverty, we're getting union busting, we're getting the destruction of public services, we're getting the environment polluted. I don't think we really have to believe that they're the best people to be running this world. And so I think we have to fight what they stand for. We have to fight their austerity agenda, and we have to take bold steps to re-energise our movements, to resist them effectively. I think we can do that. There's nothing inevitable about 20 years of austerity. I think we can give them that time dominated not by their austerity, but by our resistance. Thank you very much.